So as many of you know, I'm very new to the whole MMO genre, got into World of Warcraft last year, fell in love with it, and then more recently got into Elder Scrolls Online. With those two games kind of checked off my list, obviously still playing those games because they are so huge, I want to dive into a game that I know many of you probably want to know about, arguably the most popular MMO at the moment, and that is Final Fantasy XIV. Of course, we'll be looking at this game from a new player's perspective. So when this game first came out, it wasn't very well received. It was kind of panned actually, people did not like it. And then they kind of took their time, worked on the game, came back out, relaunched it and called it Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. What that means is they kind of incorporated the whole Final Fantasy XIV not being good, being shut down, and how it kind of came back to life in this new game and put that into the story itself. The first thing I want to mention is that this game does come with a very lengthy free trial, so if you're not too sure, you can always jump in there. At the same time, it does give you access to the first two expansions. It might be just the first one, but I think it's the first two. At the same time, you also get the base game itself, which is quite long in its own. Now the free trial does have a couple of limits. I do believe it comes down to the inventory. I could be wrong about that, but it does have a few limits there, and there's also a level cap, but that does not mean that you will not be able to get through that story and those expansions. There will be a few limits here and there, especially when it comes to making sure your character travels between different platforms, which is something that I had to do with my current save. But at the same time, it's still something that you can enjoy on its own with the free trial on your platform of choice. So let's say you're done with the free trial and you want to jump into this game after that, or let's say you're someone that just does not want to do the free trial, you already know you'll enjoy this game and you want to jump straight in. There is a subscription to this game. It just follows any of those MMO subscription models that we see in World of Warcraft or most MMOs out there. So you do need to be ready to spend money on a monthly basis. So it is a commitment. It does come down to, making sure that you are actually getting your money's worth and playing this game. At the same time, any new expansion does have a cost. More recently, with Endwalker, you just need to buy that expansion, but all the other expansions are included with the base game, which itself has a price. So in Canada, it was around $25. It could be around 20 USD, if not less. And most of the times it is on sale. I got it on sale as well. But then you do need to buy the Endwalker expansion, which is the most recent one, to be able to play through that expansion on top of the subscription fee. So already money-wise, it does seem kind of a lot. But I felt through the same thing with World of Warcraft, and after spending all that money and seeing that world, I fell in love with it and I felt that my money was well spent. But of course, this is completely up to you in terms of how you would want to spend your money on these types of games. But be very mindful that this is kind of the intro cost if you're not going down that free trial route, or if you're done with that free trial route and you want to kind of move to the main game. So as with my other reviews, I'm focusing on the first 5 hours of this MMO, similar to what I did with World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, and ESO. I want to make sure that this is a game that's worthwhile, it grabs you, and it is something that you would want to invest your time and money, and actually more importantly time. That should be just capitalized in all of this. I won't leave it too far until the end, but it was time well spent on my part. When it comes to the story, the premise, it is a little confusing, I won't lie. I did my best to kind of understand what was going on, but the whole idea was that basically we are a hero in this world that has kind of been reborn of sorts, which is kind of relating to how the game shut down and restarted. And it starts off with us just kind of being an adventurer in this world and working through these very, very small tasks that of course will lead to a bigger overall story. Now in my case, I have played quite a bunch of this and there are main story parts that are coming in, but up to that point, it was very much me helping these small areas or lands that we travel to, and basically kind of following this path of reconnecting this alliance, reconnecting these group of people together based on what happened in their past. Of course, I am trying to be very cagey and just kind of keeping everything to myself because like I said, I want you to experience this game on your side. So I'm not going to reveal too much, but keep that in mind that that's kind of how it starts off, which actually does set it up well for the overall story in my opinion. If you ever played a Final Fantasy game, be it 15, 12, 13, 10, whatever it may be, you kind of have an idea of how the story kind of goes up and down, how you kind of come into this world and you are kind of doing these small tasks, but then there's this overarching story that's happening in the background, and that's the exact same thing that's happening here. Even though I'm saying these small tasks, they are big kind of events within these communities. There's this whole thing with people getting kidnapped, and also kind of like group that's kind of rising and might be causing issues later on. There's really cool stories to be experienced just right in the beginning of that game. And let's kind of move into making your character and what that kind of looks like. You have a lot of options when it comes to making your character. I actually have to bring it up on my phone because there's so many classes. So there are like 9 classes. You can kind of be an archer, a conjurer, an arcanist. Of course, there's those melee classes as well. I went with an arcanist because it just kind of went well with what I was trying to be in WoW and ESO. This mage that kind of does a lot of damage from far away, but can also heal, allies and be a support character as well. At the same time, I really like that the arcanist has a book that they kind of read the spells out of, and the spells kind of shoot out. I just thought that was like a really cool look for a character. So that's kind of what I went with in the end. But of course, there's so many options. You can do whatever you want. At the same time, depending on the class and race that you choose, you can kind of determine where you start off in that game. And when you start off that game, there's also a specific guild for your specific type of class. And if you follow those quests for that guild, that will unlock more abilities and things that you can do with that class that will be more advanced later on, which is a really cool idea. So you have your main quest, but at the same time you have your class quest that you do alongside of it. So whilst you're doing that, you're basically leveling up your character and also unlocking more and more abilities. Now, of course, in my opinion, the main thing that matters the most in this type of game, the gameplay, the whole loop, why you would want to keep playing. The gameplay loop in this is very similar to what you would see in any MMO. However, it is more attuned to what you would see in a Final Fantasy game, where it does feel a bit more turn-based. Obviously, it is not turn-based. It is very much live. You're kind of taking a part in that action in that moment. But it is more of you're kind of shooting at the enemy from far away. It's not as one-on-one combat style, if that makes sense. After playing Elder Scrolls Online, which is very much that combat style that you would see in Skyrim or in Morrowind or any of those games, it is not really like that. At the same time, it's not exactly like World of Warcraft, if that would make sense. It is very much, when you're playing it, you do get the impression that it is a turn-based game. You are kind of like taking your time, waiting for your thing to kind of recharge and hitting it. As I'm saying it, I know it's kind of similar in World of Warcraft, but here it is very much that pause, that gap in between when you're damaging and you're moving around and you're switching characters. Whereas of course with World of Warcraft, you are kind of just going into that enemy, within those enemy spaces, and just kind of doing damage to a bunch, depending on your character, of course. And this might be different for different characters in Final Fantasy XIV, but in my case with the mage, it definitely felt a little bit more focused when it comes to dealing with one enemy at a time, at the same time kind of having that turn-based feeling to it. Whereas I can imagine if I was playing a melee character, that might be different. Now, in no way is that a bad thing. The gameplay loop itself is extremely fun. You have a really cool set of abilities that you can kind of keep working on. At the same time, depending on your character, like mine, you have summons, you're also able to heal, you're able to resurrect. So you can kind of play with your character the way you want to build that character and all the abilities that they can do. Of course, as you do these quests, you go to these enemies, you get rewards and you get better gear. Same kind of loop that you would see in World of Warcraft or even in Elder Scrolls Online. So if you're someone that's already into World of Warcraft or into Elder Scrolls Online, this is a very easy game to get into in terms of the loop. You'll fit right in, you'll know where you're getting, you'll know what you need to do to kind of keep improving your character and know how that quest structure works. For someone new to this whole genre, at the same time new to Final Fantasy XIV, you do need to keep that in mind. If that is a gameplay loop that does not sound appealing to you, or if you feel that you might get bored, or you feel that it might not be as engaging, keep that in mind and go to the free trial instead. As I went through the loop, as I kept doing quests, I was really getting into it, especially when it comes to my character and how my abilities work. I was finding ways to kind of bring an enemy close to me, get my summon out, have my summon do some damage, at the same time me do some damage as well. Or when I'm playing with others, when it comes to the dungeons, I'm able to heal them, which is a really cool ability. At the same time, I can also help when it comes to damaging the characters or the enemies. So I'll quickly talk about dungeons. You do have that dungeon structure. It does an awesome job when it comes to matchmaking. So it finds the right people that you need, the right classes, and sends you into the story-based dungeons. In many cases, at least the ones that I played. I know that World of Warcraft has that as well with Dungeon Fighter, but I love that Final Fantasy XIV already kind of has it. You don't need to go into a separate menu. You just click on that dungeon and it just kind of does everything for you. The dungeon experience is really great, as you would expect in any type of World of Warcraft or any of these type of dungeon based MMOs. At the same time, there's always, at least from what I've seen, there's always like a really cool boss that you gotta fight at the end. Sometimes there's a cool cinematic with it. It's definitely a bit more fleshed out from what I've seen. It feels a bit more engaged story-wise as well. And so far, the community has been really, really, really awesome. I've had a number of people that are playing with me in that dungeon guide me and tell me, hey, why don't you try this move? Why don't you try that move? Not being condescending, not being rude or mean, just kind of giving me ideas because they can tell that I'm new to the game and I'm still kind of learning. And I really, really love that. I love when you have a community that is ready to help you out. That automatically gets me more invested. At the same time, I'm just more and more excited to be a part of that community. I've not tried any of the raids, anything like that. I will try it out at some point because I'm really enjoying the game. But I just wanted to be clear, I haven't gotten to that point yet. Now, of course, for me, one of the biggest things is music. And wow, music in this game is possibly the best soundtrack of all games of all time ever. It's too good. I love the music for ESO. I love the music for World of Warcraft. I love the music for God of War. I love the soundtrack for so many of these games, and I always have, okay, you know what, this game is really good for this kind of moment. This game is really good for this kind of moment. Final Fantasy XIV soundtrack is just something that you can use for any moment in your life. You have some amazing, gut-wrenching music and soundtrack that just kind of gets you right in the feels. At the same time, there's music that really pumps you up. I can probably listen to that at the gym. The key thing is that when you're playing the game, it really gets you involved with that world. You want to be a part of it. You feel like you're a part of it. And when you're going, you feel like a hero in that game. And that's the key thing with this game. They want you to feel like a hero. You're a hero of this world. You're a hero out there joining up with other people, other adventurers who are also on a similar journey. And with this music, you feel like that. The graphics isn't something amazing or anything like that, but it does the job, and it's pretty good. I've played this game on my PC on an RTX 4090 and also on my Steam Deck. And on both sides, it looks really good. I didn't feel like the RTX 4090 in any way enhanced my experience. At the same time, I didn't feel like the Steam Deck in any way took away from my experience. The art style is very much not fully humanoid, but not fully cartoonish. So it kind of does a good job and it looks good. A lot better than what you would see from ESO, because the ESO does try to follow that very humanoid, human realistic kind of look to it. So this is kind of very much similar to World of Warcraft, and it has a timeless look to it in my opinion. So for new players, the free trial is a very great option to get in. At the same time, I do think that if you are someone that enjoys games like Destiny 2, something that is not very related to these kinds of MMOs, but has a similar loop where you are, fighting your way through, being a hero, grinding it out, getting more gear, but at the same time, you want a story that really, really kind of gets you going, gets you invested. This is a very, very good game for a person like you. Because of the type of gameplay this game has, I would definitely recommend everyone to first check out the free trial. Square Enix and Final Fantasy have done a very good job that way of giving you a free trial that lets you go through the base game and the first 1 or 2 expansions without having to pay anything at all. And let's say once you are done and you want to actually switch to the main subscription and bring your character over, you can definitely do that. I did learn that it is a little complicated if you want to do any cross progression like things with the PC and the PlayStation 5. It basically means you just need to rebuy the game on the other platform. At the same time, you might need to rebuy all the expansions as well. So it's a little complicated that way, which is, I'm not a big fan of that. I feel like if you just have a game here, you should be able to bring it to another platform. That's just my view. But still, for anyone that's kind of wondering about that, maybe has a PlayStation and a PC, I'm just letting you know, it's not as simple to just do the whole cross progression thing. This game is also very well catered to anyone that prefers playing with the controller. So that basically means that the number of abilities and everything that you have will be adjustable on your controller, whereas in a way, it is basically made in a sense that you're not going to have 1,000 abilities. You're not going to have 1,000 things that you need to do at the same time. You'll have enough that you can just do in the palm of your hand. And that's something that I think is a very, very good thing for Final Fantasy XIV, because like I said, it is catering not only to people like myself who might play on the PC, but for anyone that is very new to the whole MMO landscape. How many times has that happened to you when you see an MMO game and you see all these things flashing in front of you on the screen? Just the screen just riddled with stuff, and you just see like a tiny character doing its thing there, right? That's what happened to me. I saw World of Warcraft and I saw that and I was like, how is this appealing? How do you understand the story? How do you understand what's going on? Well, obviously when I played it, I kind of understood how it works. But in this case, for anyone that's looking from the outside in, all you'll see is a small set of tools and abilities that you can use, all set on your controller, and that's it. Everything else is kind of made in the same way you would expect a third-person open-world RPG game. This goes to the Steam Deck as well. This game works perfectly on the Steam Deck. I've been playing there primarily. It's been an awesome experience. I've limited it to 30 FPS so that I can play the game for longer because of the Steam Deck's battery. But on the Steam Deck, it runs flawlessly. I've never had an issue when it comes to casting spells or targeting someone. Like I said, because it's made for the controller as well, everything just works right out of the box. You don't need to do any adjustments. There are a couple of issues when it comes to making sure the controller works on the Steam Deck. Sometimes you do have to kind of go out of the game and back into the game on your Steam Deck, and it'll kind of recognize the controller. It's a weird issue that I've had, and I've seen that a number of other people are having that as well. So just letting people know that in case that happens to you on your Steam Deck, just press the Steam button, go out, come back in, and it should start working. So overall, this is an amazing MMO. This is an amazing game. I'm around 10 to 11 hours in. And to be fully honest, I have played Final Fantasy XIV in the past, but of course I never got to this point, and I never played it in this way where I have an understanding of MMOs. It was very much, hey, this is a game that everyone's talking about. I never really got into it. I stopped playing after a little while, but now this game has really gotten me, and thanks to World of Warcraft and my love for MMOs that just started. For anyone new to the game, this is the perfect starter MMO in my opinion. This game is catered to people that would want to play on controllers, at the same time for anyone that does not want to have 1,000 million things being thrown at you at the same time. The controls, the mechanics, everything is very easy to understand, and you're able to get into the game right away. At the same time, they have an awesome free trial that lets you play through such a huge chunk of the game that even if you're worried for a second that you might not like it and you don't want to invest your money, you can go through that route. Play through the free trial, get to the end of the free trial, which will take you a long time, and then make the decision. And then your character, everything is just waiting when you want to move to the subscription model and try out the other expansion. For any seasoned MMO players that might be looking at this game, if you're someone that plays WoW, if you're someone that plays ESO, New World, whatever it may be, this game is meant for you. This game is a love letter to MMO fans, and it's made in the best way possible with an amazing story, an amazing gameplay loop, amazing gear system, and just an amazing atmosphere that just kind of gets you in with that music. Like I said, like every time I think about that music, I just kind of get taken away. I just get taken away from this little recording studio that I have here. Definitely a game worth its subscription price, worth the expansion price, worth the starter price, whatever the price is. When you get into this game, there's so much to do, but everything you do is so meaningful and it is so enjoyable. This is arguably my favorite MMO at the moment. I love World of Warcraft and I love ESO. World of Warcraft will still have a very special place in my heart since it started my love for all of this. But having played Final Fantasy XIV for just 10 hours so far, I know for a fact that this is my game. This is where I belong. Thank you everyone for joining. It really means a lot. You know what to do. Please like, subscribe, all of that. And I'll see you next time. Bye.